Olá, bom dia a todos. Sejam muito bem-vindos ao IBEF São Paulo e mais uma live da nossa jornada de meios de pagamentos. Antes de iniciarmos, gostaria de me apresentar. Sou Estânia Moraes, atuo atualmente como CFO da Siena Communications Brasil e hoje tenho o privilégio, estou bastante honrada de estar aqui moderando essa live de grande relevância para o nosso mundo de finanças. Primeiramente, quero agradecer aos mantenedores do IBEF São Paulo, os patrocinadores desse evento, Mastercard e Mercado Pago, aos nossos speakers, que pela relevância do tema teremos palestrantes internacionais, e a todos os atendentes desse webinar. Lembrando que a nossa plataforma, a audiência não tem acesso nem a microfone e câmeras, e pela dinâmica do nosso evento, vocês deverão apresentar suas perguntas através do chat, que será coletada pela organização deste evento. E antes de começar, gostaria de lembrar os nossos próximos eventos do IBEF São Paulo. No dia 19 de novembro, das 8 às 9h30 da manhã, teremos o webinar da Comissão Técnica de Mercado Financeiro e de Capitais, a jornada do Open Bank e parcerias com fintechs. No dia 24 de novembro, das 8 às 9h30 da manhã, o webinar da Comissão Técnica de Controladoria e Contabilidade, com o tema A Democratização dos Dados, usando o Business Intelligence para equipes de negócios. E já no dia 25, das 8 às 9h30 da manhã, o webinar, Seminário IBEF SP, relatando o tema Diversidade Racial, Barreiras e Caminhos para a Liderança Mais Inclusiva. Também no dia 25, no período da tarde, das 18 às 19h30, teremos a cerimônia de premiação do Prêmio Golden Tombstone 2020, ao vivo, onde iremos premiar as operações financeiras mais relevantes de cada categoria delas. Bom, como havia comentado, esta é uma jornada de meios de pagamento. Essa é a nossa terceira live, sendo que a primeira ocorreu no dia 22 de junho, patrocinada pelo Mastercard e Mercado Pago, e debateu sobre as tendências e oportunidades de meios de pagamento. A segunda, em 23 de setembro, patrocinada pelo CID, discorreu sobre a transformação dos meios de pagamentos e a influência do PIX. E hoje estamos aqui para debater onde está o Brasil na trajetória global dos meios de pagamento Open Bank. So, this is my pleasure to introduce you our international speaker, Mr. Disso, Digital Data Innovation and City Commercial Bank Cash Product Regional Leader, Mrs. Priscila Faro, Legal Head, FinTech of Mercado Livre, and Mr. Oliver, VP New Payment Platform of Mastercard. They will share with us their experience and the lessons learned, regardless Open Bank, real-time payments, and regulations itself in a global perspective. Mr. Oliver, welcome to our virtual stage. It's your time.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you kindly. I'm going to try and show my screen so that you can see my slides. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes. That's
you
good.
Can. Excellent. Great stuff. Good morning. So my name is Oliver Steely. I run the real-time payments business for Vocalink product. In the UK, Vocalink is part of the Mastercard organization. I'm based in London. As I look out my window, I suspect the weather is nowhere near as nice as the weather where you're looking out your windows. I know that many of us are joining from spare rooms, kitchen tables, and other remote locations. And so I pass you my best wishes from wherever you're working. So, and I trust you're all staying safe and well. So I have 20 minutes. I'm going to cover a topic in relation to real-time payments and provide some background into some of the work and the thinking that that Mastercard do, and I'll pause to allow for some questions. I understand there's a deeper Q&A towards the end. I don't know that I can stay for the whole event, so I'm going to try and cover as many of the questions as I can. Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about myself first, so you know my background. I have been working in innovation and payments across multiple payment schemes, banks, consulting organizations for well over 25 years. Despite the youthful good looks, I have been working in this industry a considerable time, predominantly in the area of payments and payments innovation, bringing to market new products and helping businesses launch products to drive the way payments change the way people buy things, interact with each other, and perform commerce. Mostly in a product management area, but also across corporate development, partnerships, and in particular product management. In my current role, I'm working for Mastercard. Vocalink is a subsidiary company of Mastercard that was acquired a couple of years ago with a specific interest in real-time payments. Vocalink is the operator of the ACHs, the ATM networks, and a number of other core critical payment infrastructure components of the UK economy. So we're responsible for processing nearly all of the UK salary payments and bill payments through a batch ACH, and we have been operating a real-time ACH in the UK for a considerable amount of time. In my role, I look after part of our international expansion as we take the products and experience that we've developed by running these ACH and payment services in the UK to other markets. And I'll touch briefly on some of those other markets that we have our solution live in. Today, we have our solution live in the Asia-Pacific markets with implementations in Singapore and Thailand, and a new implementation coming in the Philippines later this year. In Europe, we're working in the Nordic countries with the P27 consortium, where we'll be putting in place multiple multi-currency implementations for Norway, Finland, Denmark, and Sweden. In the Middle East and Africa region, we have an implementation underway in the Saudi market, and you'll hear more about this. And in the Americas, we have an implementation live with the clearinghouse TCH in the US, and earlier this week we announced our intention to work with Payments Canada to do the same thing. In the Latin American markets, we have an implementation underway in Peru, where we are upgrading the batch and the real-time systems in the Peru market, and you'll learn more about that in due course. So that's my background. That's our role. Let me talk to you a little bit about real-time payments and the evolutions and some of the lessons learned. So we see from the graph here that there is a considerable amount of activity in real-time payments. You can see that many countries have some form of real-time payments. They may not all be equal. They may not all be available 24 hours by 7, 365. Some of them may be limited to banking hours. You may have different definitions of what real-time means, and you may be performing settlement in slightly different ways as well. But you can see here there's tremendous opportunity to modernize and grow the way in which consumers, businesses, and governments make payments across the globe. And what we identify underneath this is that we understand the corporate market in particular is migrating towards electronic presentment and payments of bills. That banks globally believe this is a significant driver of revenue for banks. And there's no doubt that in the current situation, the importance of consumers using remote banking channels and payments electronically is increasingly important as a factor for driving growth. And the benefits of speed impact the entire economy. So it benefits consumers by knowing they've been paid immediately and providing confidence in payment systems. For corporates in particular, as we modernize with real-time payments, we're also able to increase the amount of data that is transported with that payment, and that helps significantly in terms of cash management and liquidity flows. Governments in particular have a need to include disbursements more quickly than maybe they ever have before, whether that's for disaster relief or simply by improving the efficiency of the way in which they distribute money to citizens. And ultimately, we've seen evidence that this has a genuine impact on economic growth. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of those benefits in due course. I'm just pausing for a second. We had a little echo. I think that's dealt with now. If anyone who isn't on mute could put their microphone on mute, that would be terrific. So what we've seen when real-time payments has been adopted is that you can have a swift usage very, very quickly. So I'm going to talk about Thailand a little later as a case study where greater than 50% of the population registered for a new real-time payment service in less than 2 years. That's an astonishing growth. And we can see other examples as well, that in the UK, despite many years of operating the real-time payment system, it remains the fastest growing payment system. We can see terrific growth across electronic payment mechanisms as a result, and a decline, therefore, in more expensive in-branch funds transfers, cash handling, check handling, and other operational costs associated with moving paper payments around. This example here is not from one of our implementations, actually. It's from an implementation in India. And the reason why I show this is to illustrate the take-up when you can provide a unified experience and an improved way for consumers to interact with the usage. So you can see here that in August 2016, the UPI initiative was launched in India, which effectively enabled consumers to pay each other just by knowing their mobile phone number. And you can see a dramatic rise in the usage, take-up and adoption of the services once it was brought to consumers in an easy-to-use format across their mobile devices. One of the implementations that we're particularly proud of is the implementation that we identified in the Thai government was having a considerable challenge with high costs of distributing welfare and benefit payments, which were traditionally dished out in cash branches to their citizens. They took a decision that they would only distribute government benefits electronically to the registered government ID, and it was effectively up to the banks to map the government ID to the underlying bank account. So naturally, if you want to get paid, you need to register. what we've identified is a staggeringly quick adoption of Thai consumers onto the real-time payment system as a result. The Thai country is approximately the same size as the UK. Within 2 years, the Thai economy was doing as many transactions across their real-time interface that the UK has been able to achieve after 10 or 12 years. So we've had a staggering adoption of real-time payments once it was put together in a way that had central government support, the support and coordination of the entire banking industry, and a consumer interface and user mechanism in terms of proxies using by mobile phones that drove adoption and significant transaction volume. It's a real case study, not only in social inclusion, but also in driving the cost away from banking channels and away from cash and providing significant benefits to the entire economy. And you can see here some of the metrics here with significant growth in digital payments, reductions in branch and ATM transactions, and other mechanisms. So a real step change in the way that consumers are interacting with their banks and making payments to consumers and to businesses. I also want to pause for a moment to talk about data. So in the same way in which we're modernizing the speed by which a payment can be made, we're also able to modernize the amount of data that can be transferred alongside a payment. We do this by using a new standard for banking payments in payments world called ISO 222. Essentially, this is an XML-based format that allows significantly more information to be passed across the payment network, and it also allows for non-payment messages to be passed across payment rails as well. Those non-payment messages include a request to pay, the ability to send a digital invoice straight to your mobile phone via your bank, a request for a return of funds to streamline the management of disputes, reconciliations, and downstream reconciliations. A request for information if you receive a payment and you need, for example, the invoice number or the purchase order that was attached to it, and credit confirmations as well. This opens up wider use cases for real-time payments, be they for business to consumer, consumer to business, or even ultimately for the full supply chain of corporates. So let's talk about some of the things that we've learned. In the first instance, you must demonstrate value. You absolutely must demonstrate value to the consumer in terms of providing them with a simple and clear user interface. And as an industry, you must choose together those areas where you're prepared to collaborate and those areas where you need to compete. To create that user experience that is simple for every consumer to understand, regardless of who they bank with, to have the same consistent experience is vital in driving up adoption. And that engagement is right through the industry as well, to bring in all of the stakeholders, including the government, our corporates, the large billers, as well as making sure you have something that works for consumers. Where possible, standardize. We know that every country has their own particular flavor, their own particular way of doing things. Increasingly, the use of global standards such as ISO 222 will ultimately drive down cost, improve reach, and improve interoperability. These implementations must be very carefully planned with meticulous change control procedures, because you are coordinating an entire industry to move and modernize together. and does require significant planning and time. This is not a simple IT project that could be done in a short number of months. In many cases, this is a rolling change program covering many years. Simplify in terms of access as well is really, really common. And where possible, support those participants with adapters and tools to make that journey from one payment system to another as clean and simple as possible. I'm going to pause there just briefly and show you a couple of our examples of where we've implemented large payment systems across many implementations. Whether that's in the UK, where we have over 120,000 corporates using our infrastructure to submit payments into the infrastructure. In Sweden, where we provided the first outsourced clearing offshore payment system. To the UK, where we have the running of the UK's faster payments real-time infrastructure. To Thailand, where we're digitizing the economy. To the US, where we're powering real-time payments in the largest economy in the UK, but again, where we're migrating a number of paper-based payments as well. So we have significant experience globally in modernizing entire country infrastructures for payments and improving the way people pay. And you can see here our footprint of the markets where we are currently deploying our real-time payment services. The way we like to think about this is through three pillars of our delivery. The first is the underlying infrastructure, the switch, the payment rails that enable the transfer of money. And I like to think of this as like an onion with an infrastructure core in the middle, the applications that we wrap around the outside to support people using these rails and deliver different payments, and the services like analytics and fraud and intelligence that support the overall system. That's the conclusion of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pause to take some questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oliver, for your valuable presentation. It's awesome. Thank you very much. And now, Mr. Drew, you are welcome to our virtual stage. Mr. Drew? Okay, thank you.
You're on mute.
Okay, how about now? We're good now?
Yes.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
All right, okay. Okay, well, good morning. Good morning, everyone from Miami. The sun is rising, so I think you'll start to see a little bit of light behind me. So let me just pick it up, on the theme of open banking and what's happening around the world. And I'm gonna break my talk a little bit around a couple of themes that will bring it all together. But before I do that, I think it's important that we mention that in the last 6 months, what we thought was a very fast digital transformation that we all have experienced, be it consumers or financial institutions or industry, has completely changed in the last 6 months with the COVID-19 and everything we have experienced as individuals in this health crisis. So
Hey, Mr. Dries, we cannot hear you.
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now it's okay. Thank you.
All right, not sure what's going on, but anyway, we'll pick it up again. So I said it's important that when we talk about the digital transformation and the theme of open banking and everything that's going on in Brazil and around Latin America and the world, it's important we bring it in the context of the COVID-19 and the health crisis. So while we talked about a digital transformation that has been extremely fast in the last 15 to 20 years, I think when we land in 2021 and for the next 3 years, it's going to look extremely slow. And this digital transformation, of course, is not just about efficiency, but it's also about changing business models. A lot of businesses right now are thinking about how can they manage the drop in volumes, how can they manage the disruption that they have felt, since the month of March. And can digital help them? Can if they go direct to consumer, will that change the equation? Of course it will. Yes, digitization of everything is about the software dominating our experience, right? So everything we do when it comes to experiences is now driven by software. And so how does this digital experience get integrated with payments so that they actually become invisible and they disappear? And of course, this is part of what we'll discuss today. The rapid adoption, well, as I just said, those that were not convinced that purchasing things online or getting deliveries online, if that was if they were not convinced or they feared doing it over the internet or their smartphones, they actually in quote were forced to do so, right? Because employees all had to go work from home and we all had to consume from home. So this was the only way for us to get products and services. So of course, the adoption that came very, very fast in the last few years is only accelerating moving forward. And when we talk about disruptive competition, at least, if our angle from Citi is that it's not a disruption, this is really about opportunity. I mean, we see things, we see the opportunity getting bigger, not shrinking by fintechs and big techs coming into the space. And of course, with open banking, we don't see this as a disruption. We see it mostly as a growth of an opportunity. And regulation, yes, with PIX and others, the very aggressive regulations in Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, mainly the 3 countries that are leading the region, really give us a look into the next 3 years about this opportunity that's going to become important. And you've heard in the previous presentation examples about India. Potentially, we could talk about China. That could be the model of what we should look forward to when it comes to not only financial inclusion, but also the growth of this opportunity that I referred to. So for me, so yes, this is technology. Yeah, you cannot really talk about digital transformation, open banking, APIs, and everything else without talking about technology. But we see these themes of wallets and 7x24. And moving things to the cloud and AI and blockchain. These are all technologies, right? But the point here is, how do we change a fundamental infrastructure of a country to broaden the business opportunity for all, to bring the non-bank population into the financial flows, and to literally grow the connectivity between the industry players and outside the country when it comes to cross-border transactions. So let's talk about the 5 themes that will drive these opportunities, and we'll put it all in context, right? And I'll go through them very, very quickly. So the first one is economic vitality. And as I mentioned, we see 3 things. And this is based on a study that we've done with the Empiric Institutes, right? So potentially there are 220 million people that will come into the formal economy via this digital transformation, open banking, and everything else, right? So 220 million people is what we have estimated as an opportunity for financial inclusion and bancarization. Now, of course, you can extrapolate this for Brazil and any country, and you will actually get a significant portion of this population that will bring this opportunity. And the reason why is also on average, you have about half of the economy is informal, right? In most cases, half of the economy is conducted in cash. So if you bring 220 million people or the equivalent of this in Brazil, there will be significant cost savings when it comes to elimination of cash. So we're also estimated $300 billion worth of cost savings from the elimination of cash based just on these 220 million people. This will be direct benefit, direct impact to the public sector, as well as the retail industry and others. Of course, this is something that many industries and banks would benefit from. The equivalent of this in growth of opportunities is about $1 trillion. Right? So there is $1 trillion out there today that we don't see in the financial system. So again, a tremendous opportunity, not disruption, but tremendous opportunity that we can achieve. The next one is modern life, and this is something we're all familiar with. The first is basically 70% of the commerce will be conducted by mobile phones by 2022. Now, this is something that my colleague from Mercado Libre knows very, very well, right? And this is now more of a reality while we're going through the COVID-19 health crisis than before. Of course, the cell phone adoption, the smartphone adoption in Latin America hovers around 70 to 75%, heavily used in Brazil, as we all know, and most large countries in Latin America. But this is a great way of how we can connect these flows, potential flows that we talked about, $1 trillion worth of flows as we bring 220 million people into the formal economy via this smartphone. The second is more than half of the electronic commerce will be done online. Now, so yeah, I mean, if you went anywhere during the month of April, May, this was the reality. I mean, we could not get food in our houses unless we ordered them online and had them delivered. Of course, the furniture, clothing, everything. We just could not go outside. And so we really have tested this beyond the statistics that we already knew about last year when we came in to 2020. And what's interesting about this commerce being done online, more 58%. And again, I'll refer to Mercado Libre, a very good example, is that we see a lot of entrepreneurship going on into these marketplaces, Mercado Libre, Amazon, Alibaba. Basically, a lot of people today are relying on these marketplaces to sell their products and services, right? So you really don't have to move to a capital and really displace yourself to start a small business. You can literally open an electronic shop and start selling. And these are all part of people that were, again, back in the formal and informal economy that are coming in to this formal economy and receiving their electronic payments through this new way of working. And of course, the shared economy, right? 4 out of 10 people today get jobs this way. So you have a motorcycle, you have a bicycle, maybe you have a car, maybe you have an apartment. Or you can use yourself to download an application, and now you have a job, right? In Brazil, you have a company that's pretty disruptive in our region. It was the model starting in the US called Dog Hero, right? Where basically you can walk people's dogs and pets and host them in your house. By downloading an application, again, you have a job. You can deliver pizza, right? You can provide transportation from somebody's home to the airport. You can rent your apartment for someone to spend vacation. A lot of people today are being employed through their smartphones and getting paid in a digital way versus being paid in cash. So again, this connects to the first theme, and this is the modern life. Then we go to, then we go to industry to ecosystems. I'm missing a slide here, but the industry to ecosystems implies that we will basically connect multiple industries to become one ecosystem. McKinsey says that this is about a $60 trillion worth of new flows, because when someone gets paid via their smartphone, so let's say again I delivered a pizza, right? So I work in iFoods or Rappi, and somebody ordered a pizza, I picked it up. I have a motorcycle, I delivered this pizza to someone's house. Now on my way back, I need to stop and put gas. So now I can use, I just got paid into my mobile smartphone, into this mobile wallet, right? Virtual account behind the mobile wallet. And now I can go and put gas with my smartphone, right? I can pay taxes. I can potentially also order food if I cannot leave the house. So what happens is transportation industry, entertainment industries, retail, healthcare, public sector, government entities, they will all connect. And these mobile wallets will not only connect consumers to service providers and to businesses that want to hire them, but the money will start flowing between these industries to form a new ecosystem. And this is what we see happening in Brazil as these wallets become not only used much more than credit cards and debit cards and checks. They will also start to have incentives in the sense that R$1 in a mobile wallet will be worth R$1.50. Again, if there is a cost savings in handling cash, industries will start to pass those savings, those incentives to those that will use the mobile wallet. Governments will do the same, right? So we should expect mobile wallets to become dominant in a new ecosystem that will bring a lot more opportunities to the scene. So the other theme that I want to talk about is big to small to smart, right? So real-time payments, open banking. When you look behind all of this, what do you see? You see that the transactions that we went from handling large amounts of money in a much smaller frequency, right? So companies, banks, were in the business of transferring large amounts of monies, but very low frequency, right? Every 3 months. This was the past, long time ago. And then the financial system started to modernize, and so we start to see the amounts getting smaller and the frequency getting higher, and the time it took shrinking, right? So we went from 3 months to 3 days as financial systems became modernized. But today, again, real-time payments, 7/24, so forth, so on. So what we are doing is we're handling very, very small transactions, very small value. Of course, this is e-commerce, right? People buying a pizza, ordering a car, transferring, sending money to somebody else, right, for a service that got provided. So these amounts are very small, but the frequency is very high, right? And it's taking faster, right? So that's why they're faster payments. So we're talking about 3 seconds and small amounts of money. But again, this creates an opportunity, right? So how do you reconcile all of this? And of course, open banking helps in this sense because we're standardizing formats and we're allowing for sharing of information. But the reality is,
you cannot see your slide. It is only the first slide until now.
This is terrible.
Sorry.
No, this is terrible. Okay, show main screen. Yeah, I'm sharing my screen, but it says it's paused. Oh,
yes, it is.
You should have told me a long time ago.
Yeah, I just realized that. Sorry.
I have covered a lot of slides, but I guess it's just a speech. It's fine. It's fine. Hopefully the message is coming across. So as I said, let me just go back to the previous slide that you all did not see. And I apologize for that. But what I was talking about, you heard me. I said, we went from large amounts, and it used to take a long time, and the frequency was very low. No one transferred, $1 million every 3 seconds, right? So today we're looking at smaller amounts of payments, faster times. That's why it's faster payments, and this is all related to the new economy, the digital economy, and the e-commerce economy, right? And so the challenge here, right? If you are a business, if you are a marketplace, if you are a government entity that you're receiving, first of all, you're requesting for a payment, right? So you're doing a request to pay, and then you're receiving that payment. And so how do you reconcile all of this? So, and just to give you an idea from our studies, 90% of B2B transactions are reconciled manually today, right? So this is a big opportunity that open banking will allow us to solve is how do we reconcile all these faster payments? And I want to talk about a solution that Citi has developed, which brings artificial intelligence into this, that allows an entity to reconcile against invoices that are being presented and payments that are being received, and they can be received in multiple bank accounts. But artificial intelligence in a solution that we call Smart Match allows us to do this matching and eliminates this manual reconciliation. I won't spend time on describing the solution, but you know, again, artificial intelligence, open banking will help to resolve this challenge, right? Look, I'm not going to cover the data either, but let me just talk about our APIs. So I'm just going to skip back because you all did not see the slides. I'm just going to talk about how Citi has helped. How have we helped with the open banking in England and other parts of the world? Citi was the first bank to partner up with IBM to create the gateway that facilitated open banking in its first version in England. And this is because of the investments we have put together around our APIs, right? So again, open banking is going to solve a lot of reconciliation problems. It's going to solve a lot of how companies and how businesses and how banks and how fintechs are allowed to come in and capture this opportunity of bringing more people to the financial systems, creating more solutions that will connect the last mile. But APIs are going to be key in how all of this is done. So APIs need to run on a standard infrastructure, right? So banks and fintechs and public sector entities and industry players will all come in to speak the same language across a set of APIs that will be information-based, transaction-based, authentication and security-based. Very important, the security side of all of this, and the cybersecurity threats, and how we need to all come together to tackle this when all of us are connected and speaking the same language across a common infrastructure. So the Citi APIs have been now proven, and we have used them for several years to not only write on a 7x24 financial system, but also on open banking and many other cross-border services for our clients. That includes, again, fintechs, financial institutions, and public sector entity and corporations. So look, I'm not going to cover more slides, although you haven't seen most of them. So I'll leave the time for discussion. So I'll stop here and hand it back to all you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dries, for your excellent presentation. It's good to know how fast we're moving, and we have a lot to do, right? Thank you very much. Então, só gostaria de lembrar que logo após a apresentação da Priscila, teremos 20 minutos de perguntas e respostas. Então, gostaria que vocês fizessem, né, mandassem as perguntas via chat, para que a gente consiga preparar os nossos palestrantes para as respostas. So, at least, Priscila, welcome to our stage.
Hello, morning. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to this live. It's an honor to be here with this specialist in this matter. And talk a little bit about me. I have been working with electronic payments since 2010, and I joined to Mercado Libre in 2013, especially to work with Mercado Pago. In our occasion, very special, considering the publishing of the law 12,865 in 2013, when all the obligations that Mercado Pago was subject to as a payment institution. I will talk a little bit about payment institution ahead. So, which was regulated by Brazilian Central Bank in 2013. So it was a very, very special occasion when I joined to Mercado Libre group. Okay, let me start here because I have 20 minutes. So, yeah. The objective of this talk is approach the relevant concepts and premises of the applicable law framework here in this. Since 2002, non-financial institutions such as credit administrators and payment services providers have started to play a significant role in the payments market in Brazil, without being subject to specific regulation or supervision until 2013, as I mentioned, with the publishing of the law 12,865, which is the most important regulatory framework for the electronic payments in Brazil. After this law was published, payment schemes and payment institutions became part of the Brazilian payment system, or SPB, subject to regulation from the central bank and according to the guidelines established by the National Monetary Council. Law 12,865 also introduces to the Brazilian legal framework the following definitions, such as payment schemes, payment scheme owner, that is the legal entity responsible for a payment scheme, such as Mastercard, Visa, and other examples here in Brazil. They are payment scheme owners. And as we will see ahead about the specific this kind of definition. And the payment institution, the most important for us as Mercado Pago. As I said, we are a payment institution now as acquirer, as a postpaid issued card as well. And then I will see ahead a little bit more about the 4 types of payment institution. For now, it's possible to better understand this concept by analyzing a prepaid card scheme, such as following this slide. Here we can see the client which has a relationship with the payment institution, such as bank, which issues the card following the payment scheme owner rules, that are the card label rules. So this card can be used in a merchant which has, for your turn, a relationship with a payment institution that provides the POS terminal that we call acquire here in Brazil. And then this payment institution acquire can settle the transactions in a payment account of the merchant or in a banking account. Here, as I said, according to Bacen Circular 3885, which regulates payment institution, such entities can be divided into 4 categories. Then we can see here. The first one is electronic currency issuers, that is payment institution issuers of electronic currency, or we can call them as e-money here in Brazil, managing prepaid payments accounts and providing services related to payment transactions carried out with electronic currency previously allocated in such accounts. The postpaid payment instrument issuers, they are issuers of postpaid payment instruments such as credit card, managing postpaid payment accounts, and providing services related to payment transactions registered in such accounts. And then we have acquirers that, without operating payments accounts, are responsible for allowing merchants to accept payments and participate in the settlement process of payment transactions as creditor against the credit card issues, pursuant to the rules of the respective payment arrangements. And the last one is pretty new. They are the Payment Initiation Service Provider, PISP, and it was introduced by Brazilian Central Bank Resolution number 24, published at last month, and is totally connected to Pix and open banking. So payment institution that provides payment transactions initiation service without managing a payment account and without at any time holding the funds transferred in the provision of the service. So we are still learning about this type of payment institution. As I mentioned, is pretty new and totally connected with Pix. So it's a very important one that we shall study. This scheme is pretty similar to the previous one. The difference between them is that here we have an additional participant that could be a sub-acquirer or a payment institution, which will be between the merchant and the acquirer. So we have the client, there is a relationship with the bank who will issue the card according to the payment scheme owner rules. And then this card will be used in a merchant for a transaction. And then the merchant will be a relationship with the sub-acquirer or the payment institution, which in your turn will have a relationship with the acquirer that will be responsible for settle the transactions. But this transaction will be settled not directly to the merchant, but yet to the sub-acquirer or the payment institution. And then the payment institution, as mentioned here before, has a payment account where the merchant can receive your funds. And then this payment account can have many other services included in this type of service, not only to credit the money in your account, but also can have prepaid card, can have Pix and other possibilities to a merchant to use these funds. We here in Brazil, we have a discussion about the cryptocurrencies versus e-money, because there is a confusion of the concept of these two kind of currencies. And then there is no specific regulation subjecting cryptocurrencies in Brazil, sorry. So as opposed to e-money that are completely regulated, as I mentioned, by the law and also for the regulation of Brazilian Central Bank. And then we had in 2014 a policy statement by Brazilian Central Bank, which explained that cryptocurrency should not be confused with e-money, which is regulated by law 12,865. And also in 2017, Bacen issued another statement where warned the public about the risks derived from storing and negotiating virtual currencies. And related to that, these assets are neither issued or guaranteed by any monetary authority. So it's very important to mention that cryptocurrency is allowed in Brazil, but Brazilian Central Bank has warned for the risks of this kind of currency. And also recently, in 2019, Brazilian Central Bank also published another statement that mentioned that traded cryptocurrency shall be classified as a non-financial product and shall be accounted for like goods. And the guideline of International Monetary Fund, IMF, also declares crypto assets as a non-financial assets. So basically, it's important to say that e-money is a resource is stored in a device or electronic system, such as payment account, that allows the final user to make payment transactions in the national currency, Brazilian real or BRL. On the other hand, currencies, virtual currencies or cryptocurrencies are denominated in a different unit of account. Of account from the currencies issued by the governments and are not stored in a device electronic system or in national currency. Those are the main difference between these two kind of currencies here in Brazil. And then it's important to mention also the competition payments here in Brazil. We have this electronic payment evolution timeline regarding to the competitive aspects here in Brazil related to the electronic payments. I only will mention two here dates that are very important for us. 2009, where CAD determined that exclusivity practice with the acquired company should cease, and this was very important because a lot of other acquirers who have access to these two biggest labels in the Brazilian market by that time. And then recently we had the Brazilian Central Bank agendas, which expressly refer to the inclusion of new payment methods, and also are based in the four structures as such as inclusion, competition, transparency, and education. And this was very important because of that agendas, Brazilian Central Bank could emphasize the importance of open banking and instant payment here in Brazil as a hot topics right now. In 2020, we had the launch of the instant payment system here in Brazil, the so-called PIX, and the implementation, the first phase of the open banking project that's coming. It's not already implemented, but it's coming to happen, with consistent in the openness of the information about products and services by the market players, and the possibility for third parties to analyze and compare them. So we expect that for the next couple of years, CAD and Brazilian Central Bank are likely to intensify their interaction regarding the implementation of open banking and also the instant payment projects, which we believe that are key strengthening competition and in the financial industry. I will summarize the concepts of PIX and open banking because I know that the other participants of this slide already talked a little bit about them, and also I know that we will have events ahead in December specific for those matters. So I will talk briefly about them. First, with PIX, was launched now in November in Brazil, so we are still learning about this new time of real-time transactions. And it is an instant payment ecosystem developed and operated by the Brazilian Central Bank, and enables real-time electronic money transfers at any time of any day of the year without the need of intermediaries. And PIX will offer free peer-to-peer transfers while P2B transactions will incur in a yet to be determined costs. So it's going to be free for P2P transfer, and for P2B transactions, we still have to wait the definition of Brazilian Central Bank. And then I brought here a real case study. I know that Oliver already spoke about UPI and the others. So here is only a briefly a study of this case, and I brought three that I believe they are very interesting to study. The first one is Cobro Digital in Mexico. It also instant payment platform based on QR code and near field communication technology. Was launched in 2019 by the Mexican Central Bank, and the usage of this platform is equal to less than 15% of the total accounts. And about 95% of code transactions are peer-to-peer, while only around 5% are peer-to-B. So we believe that the usage of the platform remains very low in Mexico because the initiatives and promotion by the government to incentivize the users of code as a peer-to-B payment methods over credit card and debit card, and given the relatively high friction process of paying with code in Mexico, you shall have at least 5 clicks to use this code. So that we believe that because of the, I don't know, sorry, it appears here some problem with the connection. Okay. So I believe that because of the lack of initiatives of the government, and also because the high friction process of coding, it was still very, very low usage. But for the opposite, we have UPI India, was a rapid consumer adoption of the UPI system. As Oliver mentioned, was very successful operation in India. And UPI in India is a real-time payment mobile system developed by the National Payments Corporation of India, NCPI, to facilitate inter-transactions. Was launched in 2016, and the system enables immediate peer-to-peer and P2B payments. And the last one is NPP in Australia, which is centralized payment system infrastructure enables Australian consumers and business and government agencies to make real-time funded transfers between accounts at over 90% participating financial institution. Was launched in 2018 and was also limited consumer adoption of the NPP. Go here, let me. And regarding open banking, the topic of open banking has been emphasized worldwide in the context of the financial markets innovation. The Central Bank of Brazil defines open bank as the sharing of data, products, and services by financial institutions and others institutions that are licensed by the Brazilian Central Bank. And this sharing of data is at the consumer discretion, as far as the main premise of the open bank is that the data the data belongs to the user and not to the bank. Here we have the definition of open banking in Brazil. There is the sharing of the data, products and services, and the benefits of the open banking is promoting more competition. As the financial institutions are able to offer to the other institution customers better products and services at a lower costs and more favored conditions. Also, the client now will be able to compare the service and products of all the financial institution that he has a relationship. So from the comfort and convenience of a single app, it would be possible for a financial consumer to proceed financial transactions without access her or his banking app or website. And this is possible because of the new type of payment institution I mentioned before, the PISP, that we will be able to provide this service through a single app for the consumers. And then I think I'm out of time here. So for the last one, I brought a comparison of open bank frameworks here. And when you compare the approach and the types of bank data and activities of those countries. And that's it. I hope I could bring a little bit more about regulation here in Brazil, and I remain here to answer the questions.
Priscilla, you make everything easier for us, right? Now you understand how to make it happen in Brazil. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have a question about open bank. So Mr. Dries, in your experience, when you compare countries are more advanced in open bank than Brazil, what are thoughts and advice to the Brazilian executives and how to expect opportunities to focus from now on?
Look, I think you can't talk about open banking without talking about that this is an opportunity for banks to work together with fintechs, industry players, as well as the public sector to create an infrastructure where we have bigger opportunity than we have now, right? So you can look at it as a disruption, as the opportunity is getting smaller, or you can look at this as a way of the opportunity getting bigger. Of course, if we look at bringing the informal economy and making it formal, so the flows that are flowing outside, that are taking place outside the financial systems coming inside, cash being used less and less, wallets becoming the dominant form of payments, right? Alternative payments methods. These wallets will rely on virtual accounts. These virtual accounts should sit with traditional banks because they are the regulated entities, or fintechs, or those that will be provided banking licenses, right? Regardless, but those will be regulated. And to do this, right, for this to be successful, which we have not seen perhaps in other countries outside, let's say in Asia or in Europe, we need to create the right incentives, right? Culturally in Latin America, and I believe in Brazil as well, the consumers, regardless if they are financially included or not, they look for the incentive, they look for the discount. A lot of people will drive for a long time to get the discount. They actually spend more money on gas to save a little bit of money, right? Yeah. Because we like to have a discount. So electronic money that will be used in the mobile wallet or digital money, as I said before, it will start to flow within different industries, and it will stay captured in this new ecosystem that will sit on the top of open banking. Will need to have higher value than using cash. We need to have a higher value than using prepaid cards or credit cards. That's how we need to drive the usage and the adoption of this new infrastructure called open banking, But on the top of this, there will be the mobile wallet as alternative payment methods, right? Which is relying on the smartphone. So anybody who has a real on a mobile wallet on a smartphone that will make an instant payment or have an instant collection, that real has to have a higher value than if we were to use cash, a credit card, or a debit card, or a check, or a boleto, or whatever the form of the payment is, or the collection is, right? So we need to work together between industries, banks, public sector entities, fintechs, to create this new value that will drive the usage and the adoption of the instant payment of PIX as well as open banking, and really bring all these flows that are moving outside the banking system, bring them inside. This is how we will capture the opportunity and drive better usage of this in Brazil versus other countries around the world.
Do you agree, Priscilla? Do you think is it just like that? It's complicated.
I didn't hear the question, sorry.
No, I'm just asking if Priscilla's point of view, if she agrees.
Yes, yes, I agree. I think we have a challenge here in Brazil about open banking because of the data. As I mentioned, we had recently a LGPD here in Brazil, so it's a very, very challenging matter to consider when you talk about open banking in Brazil because of the data of the clients. You know, all the security that we have to have in those sharing of the information. And that is also a challenge here because we are still learning about this new rule in Brazil, and then the data is also the important thing that we have to consider in open banking in Brazil. And also, but I believe that open banking in Brazil it's very positive agenda of the Brazilian Central Bank, as it will increase the competitive of the financial system here. So we as Mercado Pago, as a fintech, we believe in the open banking in Brazil, and we support the matter here.
Yeah, that's a very important point. If I can add to it, look, so we have to evolve from the current internet, right? So the current internet, the way it has been deployed for years, it's like a digital jungle, right? You can literally, in the internet, you can literally be in two different places at the same time, and it's okay. I can be right now in Miami, and I can be in London and Sao Paulo, logging in from 3 different countries at the same time, and that's fine, because identity in the internet is not secure, right? As a matter of fact, it's very easy to hack the internet, and it's very easy to steal information. So if we are going to move to open banking, it is important that we establish a digital identity, a secure digital identity for individuals. Because if you have a secure digital identity that is unique, that can only be in one place in one time, then you drive higher trust, and then your information can be shared without worrying, right? I think cybersecurity is going to be a driver of differentiation for banks and for fintechs in an open banking environment. But I'm sure, and I've known that in Brazil, this is in the agenda of the regulators, as well as in other countries that have gone into open banking. Digital identity is a fundamental pillar to make sure this is successful, right? Think about the World Healthcare Organization. Today, if you have an outbreak of a virus in Africa, immediately all the governments around the world share the same information to tackle the virus, right? This is important to contain a virus before it starts affecting the population. In the internet, for open banking, we have to do the same. Banks, fintechs, industries have to share information very, very fast when it comes to security. And I think sharing of information is not only a privacy issue, but it has to also be a security issue.
Yes, we have in Brazil a cybersecurity law. It's new also. So, but we do have, and the cybersecurity law is applicable not for only a financial institution, but also for the fintechs, all the entities that are regulated by Brazilian Central Bank. are subject to this cybersecurity law. So it's a very important point that you mentioned. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. You have to be together to be succeed, right? This is the new rule. So I have another question for you guys. The new rules are designed to increase transparency for the end users and both payers and the receipts. So expanding and improving access to information. Creating a pro-competitive environment in Brazil payment system. How do you see to speed up the implementation process? How we can speed up the implementation?
I'm not sure if I understood the question, but the competition of the open banking, in open banking, I believe that it's the products that the bank and if the fintechs will be analyzing those products with more closely, as the client will have more information. The client now will have all the information of the same products for all financial institution that he has a relationship. So the financial institution shall be there shall be have more attention of the products and prices and how we'll use the information in an easy way and security way. I think the client shall be more informed by those kind of products and how the product is provided by the client. If there is a good price, if it's a security and efficiently way, in a more efficient way. I don't know if I understood completely the question, but I don't know, Dries,
Yeah.
if you.
I'll compliment. Yeah, I'll compliment the extra. So look, so for more than 70 years, right? For more than 70 years, banks have not been able to financially include all the populations around the world for many reasons. So one reason obviously is because of the risk appetite. The other is just the reach. We just couldn't, you just cannot get to everybody to financially include them and bank them, right? So because of the rise of the internet, because of the rise of digital, and now the high adoption of the smartphone, which is a mobile phone that has internet access, or even without internet access, like we see in Africa with M-Pesa, just using SMS messages, right? We now finally can get to the large part of the population and bring them into the financial flows, right? So banks would not do that for everyone. So for fintechs, for a digital company to be born out of just digital assets, develop a beautiful, amazing digital experience, an e-commerce experience or a shared economy or any kind of digital experience that offers employment as well as it offers services. Now, finally, somebody can actually come, as I said before, download an application, provide a service, and get paid. Somebody can transfer money to another person, one person to another one. Somebody can get money from outside the country to a person in a remote area, and that person either transferring it to another person or buying something or getting a service. For this to happen, you have to have open banking, right? So you have to allow digital natives, digital companies, either payments intermediaries or others, to come in and access for some of the information that the banks have, so that the money can flow from account A to account B, right? Because a mobile phone with a virtual account is nothing unless you connect it to the financial services and the financial system, to the clearing system. And so now fintechs can do that if the banks will come and work together with the fintechs to deliver this. This is a huge opportunity for a country like Brazil to not only digitize itself, but to make the money flow in a digital way, right? When the money flows digitally, it flows faster. There's a high velocity in digital when money moves between one wallet to another one, between another bank, one bank and another one. So I think to make sure this happens faster and a successful implementation, yes, banks in the short term may feel some pain in entering this environment and sharing some of this information. And there is going to be some resistance from one bank or another one, depending on the business model, because potentially there may be some loss of revenue especially in the fees, right? But again, in the medium to long term, there's going to be a huge benefit for the entire, for the country, for the financial industry, for all. Because imagine if the entire economy gets digitized and there is no informal economy and there is no cash. I'm not saying that's going to happen in 1 year, but imagine if that's the case for Brazil, how will the banks benefit? Tremendously. But this also would imply that banks will have to rethink their business model. They will have to rethink how they make money. And so this is a learning process, but again, it has a little bit of pain in the beginning, but there's tremendous benefits in the medium term to long term.
That's great. That's very good consideration. So now we have 5 minutes left. I'd like to ask your final considerations, Priscilla and Dries. Who goes first? Priscilla?
Yeah, could be. Thanks again to invite me for this live. And I think we have many challenges to come with PIX in Brazil and also with open banking. But we are lucky to have other countries that we can analyze and do what they did better, and then and avoid what they didn't did better. But Brazilian Central Bank this year, even with the COVID in Brazil, didn't stop to regularize the matters here, the electronic payment here in Brazil. And also this year we had many laws that was published, and a very important laws here in Brazil that impact the payments here. And then these two PIX and open banks are very important, but we had others one since the beginning of the year. And I hope here we could bring a little bit about the frameworks, the legal frameworks of payments, but it's of course it's more complex than this. And then I remain at disposal for to answer any question, or if someone can talk with me, I'm here to listen. Thanks again for inviting me, and thanks Dries for the presentation. We're brilliant, and I hope to see you guys very soon.
Oh, thank you very much also for the invitation. I think I'm honored to be in a panel with great clients. I can call them clients. They are very good clients of ours, Mercado Pago and Mastercard. And I thank you for the association in Brazil to invite me. I think Brazil can lead the way. Clearly, Brazil can lead the way for the region by not only PIX and open banking and digital identity, cybersecurity laws. I think it can lead the region by demonstrating that all of this is going to lead to a better place. Meaning, if you have financial inclusion, if you have transparency, if you have velocity, high velocity in the marketplace, which is PIX at the end of the day, and a country, a financial system that does not sleep, right? 7/24. I think eventually you would see the population benefit in many ways, right? You will see many parts of the country evolve into a better place, right? Financial inclusion brings financial literacy, and that brings a better prospect for the future. So I think Brazil can lead the way for our region to modernization, as well to better opportunities for many people that can benefit from this transformation, as well as again, let's keep the dialogue, right? So these regulations and these implementations tend to evolve. They go from version 1 to 2 to 3 very quickly, as we've seen in Europe. So I'm sure this conversation is going to go on, and there are going to be many talks about it in the near future. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you both, Priscilla and Dries. This is a very special session to learn about how it's going on in other countries. And yes, I agree with you, Dries. We are going to be, we can lead the implementation here in Latin America for sure. And thank you all for all the attendance, for the audience, and see you in the next seminar. Thank you very much.